stop and try again.
Hey, Sean, did you know that October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month?
I did. I did
You
know that.
did. How'd you know? You must have somebody on the inside.
Because our guest today told us.
Who's that?
It's Mr. Mike Pilch.
Hey,
Welcome to the show, Mike.
Hey, Bill. Hey, Sean. How you doing today? Thank you for having me on. I'm looking forward to our discussion.
yeah,
Excellent,
absolutely.
buddy. Us too.
Yeah, and Mike is one of, not only is he one of our oldest and best friends, but he's also a Patreon. So we thank you. Thank you, Mike, for your support of our show.
Thank you. I love the show.
Yeah, I
Thanks,
appreciate
buddy.
it. We know you listen every week, and we really appreciate it. So we have you on because you are a cybersecurity expert, and with everything that's going on today, it's really, really important. I mean, cybersecurity has got to be on top of everybody's mind.
Should be.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, Mike, why don't you give us a little bit about your background before we kind of get into the questions?
Sure, Bill. I currently work in cybersecurity where I plan, coordinate, and lead the cybersecurity program. My background also includes working with cloud workloads, virtualization, systems engineering, network administration. My master's degree is from the UMass Lowell campus, and I hold the CISSP certification, which stands for Certified Information System Security Professional.
Outstanding, buddy. So
Thank you.
let me start with this, Mike. So basically everything we do is online. You can't do anything, you shop in, all your accounts, everything is online. So the importance of cybersecurity is astronomical. What can we do as just in our everyday lives to protect us from hackers and any type of cyber crimes?
Well, Sean, that is a great question. Let's start with our front door to our digital footprint. That would be usernames and passwords. Now, if your keys to your house got lost, would you want them to be the same keys as everyone else?
Of course not.
Right. There are about 24 billion usernames and passwords out there on the dark web. There's also a lot of people use weak passwords, and there's also a lot of common passwords that people use. So you don't want to be having the same passwords that lots of other people have. Weak passwords could be cracked in a matter of minutes. So the best recommendation I would have would be start out, use a complicated password, 10, 12 characters at least. General rule, the longer the better, with an uppercase, lowercase number, and maybe one of those special symbols. Now, I know what you're probably going to ask. I run into the same issue. How do you keep track of them all?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's hard.
Exactly.
How do you remember them?
The best way to do that would be a password manager where you just remember one password that's going to create and manage all your other passwords for you for your social media sites, banking, and any other apps or sites that you use.
And I think most, like, I know my iPhone has that built in. So like whenever I create a password or change a password, I get a prompt that says, do you want to save this? And I always do it. But I know there are still some times where, like, if it's a site I haven't been on in a while, or if I had changed a password but didn't save it, it makes me crazy that, you have to go through the whole rigmarole of, resetting your password, and you have to remember those security questions and everything. For the security questions, Mike, what's your like, advice to people for those? Because sometimes I forget the answers to my security questions.
Well, here's the deal. Security questions could be easily found out about a person, such as maybe the street they grew up on, the school they went to. So a simple way to remember them is don't reuse the answers to your security questions, but don't have them match what the question is. So for example, your mother's maiden name, maybe put down a word that you know what it is, but it's not really your mother's maiden name, and then maybe do that on all other sites that ask you for a security question
No, that's
so
good.
that they're not guessable by a hacker.
Yeah.
So if I'm a hacker though, right, and I'm looking at this from a hacker's perspective, I'm looking at the project manager kind of as a dream, because if I hack the project manager, I get all your passwords. So how do you protect against that, Mike?
You know, Sean, that is a very good question. A few years ago, the one password manager, LastPass, was hacked. Now, yes, I would still say the risk of that happening is a lot lower than using weak passwords or
Sure.
reusing them. You would want to use MFA, which stands for multi-factor authentication, where you're going to use more than one factor to log in. And a factor could be something you know, think of password, something you have, which could be maybe a YubiKey that you plug into your computer, or a text code you receive via email, text message, phone call, authenticator app like Google Authenticator, or something you are biometrics, such as maybe fingerprint, face scan. So
Sure.
you're going to use more than one factor. So if your password is out there and known and they try and use it, you still need that other second layer of security or second factor.
So when you're setting up to strengthen your password, would it be better to use stuff that isn't personalized towards you? Because like I'm thinking of a hacker, if he gets on your social media and he's looking at, well, your sports teams you like and different things, would that make it easier to hack a person, whether, you know, if you're using stuff that are really personal to you in your passwords?
That is correct, Sean. You should not use certain like sport teams that use like another popular one is pet names, maybe your street name,
Right.
dates, anniversaries, stuff that could be figured out by information known about you on social media. An example, instead of saying, say, if you're a Steelers fan, instead of doing a password like ST33L3RS, hackers know that most people will change vowels to numbers. So maybe take a sentence, such as maybe the Steelers will win the Super Bowl this year in 2024, and maybe take the first letter of each word. So it would be maybe a capital T, P for Pittsburgh, S for Steelers, so on, add in numbers and a character along the way. That way it will meet complexity requirements, not a simple word or dictionary word.
All right. We know Hopkins is going to do that. Mike, let me ask you kind of a really important question. As far as like cyber security attacks, we know that from a international standpoint, right? Like we're probably more prone to a cybersecurity attack from like North Korea, China, Russia than we are from like an actual war, right? So what do we do as citizens to prepare? Like if anything, God forbid, if anything like that should ever happen, what can we do to like protect ourselves?
That is a great question, because cybersecurity is a matter of national security. Could I give you some examples how they were used recently in some of the current
Sure.
conflicts?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
In the Russian-Ukraine conflict, one of the things Russia did was attack and had successful cyber attacks against Ukrainian power utility companies, which took down the power grid. So
Yeah.
imagine what kind of competitive advantage that would give you in a conflict.
Sure.
The other thing would be, not to be outdone, Ukraine had successful counterattacks on Russian bases and armies as they were in Ukraine. Now, how did they do that? They didn't use satellite images or the eye in the sky. They use basic social engineering where they created fake profiles on social media with pictures of attractive females, sent them to Russian soldiers, befriended them, and got them to divulge their location, and they successfully knew where they were and attacked them. As far as the regular everyday person now, yes, if our water utilities are attacked, that would be something that would impact us. One of our greatest risks would probably be identity theft and or bank accounts, financial information being out there. So some of the ways we would want to protect ourselves is start with passwords, strong passwords so people cannot log in. Be alert for phishing emails.
Yeah, talk about that, Mike. Talk about those, because the common person, like I have multiple emails I use, and I get so many emails every day, and you get so much spam, and you get all these emails, and you could look at them and say, boy, this don't seem right. But how does the average person, Mike, recognize something that could definitely be some type of fraud or something? How do they recognize it?
Oh, that is a great question. Almost any cybersecurity report you read on cyber attacks, between 85 to 90% of them begin with the phishing email. So a phishing email is going to have a few goals. It's either going to try and get you to get your credentials.
Right.
And some of the ways they're going to try and do that, and these are some of the more successful ones, brand imitation. They're going to be pretend to be from Microsoft,
Right.
Gmail, Amazon,
Sure.
Facebook. And some of the common themes are your password is going to expire. Please log in to change it.
Sure. Yeah.
We've noticed unusual activity on your account.
Yeah.
You're out of storage from Amazon, or you may get something like, oh, this charge didn't go through on your account, or we can't deliver it, or something's wrong. And it's going to bring you to a lookalike site that looks like the real site. And here are some ways you could tell it's fake. The name may have slight misspellings. Having a dash in the name, such as help-Gmail or support-Microsoft, or Microsoft might be spelled MICROOSOFT.com. So slight misspellings, slight hyphens or dashes in the name. And the email is going to look to inspire an emotion, create a sense of urgency. And it's going to ask you to take an action such as click on a malicious link or download a malicious file. An example could be an invoice, or common themes maybe a payment did not go through or unusual activity. So they're going to try and imitate the legitimate site, inspire an emotion, encourage you to take an action. Another way maybe would be centering non-normal business hours. So best way to protect yourself, check the sender. Now, yes, hackers could spoof email addresses, but most of the time they're going to change the name to match the link, such as help dash, or they may even be from a Hotmail, Gmail account, or Yahoo, for example.
Yeah. And I know, somebody I know fell victim to one of those gift card scams where they got an email and it said it was from Amazon and that there was a purchase and they had to buy gift cards and, call a number, and the person needed to know the number of the gift. Like that's a pretty common scam now. And that all starts with those phishing emails, and people really need to be aware of that. Yeah, that's really important. And then Mike, the other thing is those, the phishing texts that you get, every once in a while you get a text that says, hey, how are you? Haven't talked to you in a while. And from a number that's not in your contacts. No, that's in. Sometimes I have a little fun with them. I'll tell them that I'm burying a body or something. You got me at a bad time. But but you know, for the most part, you really should just delete and block those, right?
Sure.
Because that's not going to be any good.
That is correct, Bill. You did the right thing. And I like to have fun with pranksters as well, or scammers as well. Um, Usually, what the main goal of that text messages like that is to look to build a relationship with you. And they may come out and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I texted the wrong person.
Yeah,
Hope you weren't busy." And they're going to use social engineering to start building a relationship with you. Look to earn your trust that may
right.
eventually lead into maybe a romance scam, or even more serious, maybe like a cryptocurrency investment fraud type scam that starts with a simple text message.
Wow, it's
And
amazing what, and people fall victim to these things all the
well,
time.
they're easy to fall for.
Yeah,
Some people,
yeah.
but let me expand on that a little bit, Mike, because you know, for our business here at the podcast, we promote through social media. So, you know, and I'm kind of the face of that our business through the social media. So I'm dealing with a lot of you know, people that try to friend me on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or any of the other social media outlets we're on. And I've become pretty good at identifying fake profiles, because some of them are really good. Like some of them are really set up good. But what's the key identifiers, Mike, when you're looking, when you get a friend request from somebody and then you look at their profile, and some of them are pretty well, you know, there's a lot of information on there, and some of them you can instantly tell this is fake, you know. So what's the key that we're looking for, Mike?
Well, that is a great question. They're going to use social engineering to try and build trust. And they may start, like you said, building, creating fake profiles on social media. One of the first things is they're going to try and eventually take that conversation off the social media platform, or maybe off of maybe dating apps, if that's another site that people use, that they're look for victims, to maybe Telegram or WhatsApp. And then they're going to have pictures of nice homes, vacations, cars. They're going to build that trust, and they're going to look to expand that relationship, and they're going to travel a lot. Um, then eventually, all of a sudden, they may need money for an emergency. So,
Yeah,
best ways to protect yourself: don't send money to anyone they haven't met before. Now, a few years ago, they may not want to have any calls with you, like over the phone or video calls, such as Zoom or Google Meet. But with AI and deepfake technology, they could manipulate the voice, video, and recordings of real people to appear legitimate and make that scam even more convincing. So
well,
anyone who's asking for money before you've even met them, that is a big red flag.
Mike, how talk about the AI and the deep fakes? How that technology, though, I would assume that it's really available to a limited amount of people. So when you're talking about somebody who could pull off a deep fake, you know, we're not talking about the average scammer, right? We're talking about, you know, very sophisticated operation.
Well,
Right? Am I correct on that,
it
or is this
is, it
so available
is,
to common people?
it is a has been used by sophisticated cyber criminals, but the technology is out there and available where anybody could play with it, use it, create a deep fake video. And what that is an altered image or recording or video of someone that is a real person. Could I give you an example of how
Sure.
it's been used in cybercrime?
Yeah,
Sure.
sure.
A common phishing email that goes around is, say, for fraudulent invoices sent to someone in accounting, finance, that may
Yeah.
appear to be from a
Yeah.
vendor,
Mhm.
supplier, another business, whoever. And then they try and get you to make that payment, hoping that it's not questioned. There was a company in a British engineering firm. CFO got one of those fake invoices for $25 million.
Wow.
They questioned it,
Oh,
ended up doing a video call like we're on right now with the CEO and other finance employees. CEO told him to go ahead, pay that invoice. And it turned out that it was not the CEO or finance employees, but AI deepfake videos.
Wow. That's crazy.
Another thing, imagine being a parent, grandparent, getting a call. Now, criminals could spoof phone numbers from your child or grandchild's phone number, saying they're in trouble, they need help, and ask you to send them money for whatever reason. Could you imagine how effective that's going to be?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even taking it to levels of romance scams.
That's crazy. I think, Mike, probably the best thing to do is keep your social media profiles set to private, right? Like make sure that
Yes.
nobody can see your stuff on except your friends. And then use common sense. Like if you get a friend request from some hot girl in a bikini,
Chances are it's not a hot girl in a bikini. And with that, with say how I mentioned parents, grandparents, one of the best ways to protect yourself against that is have a code word, where if it's really legitimate, they're going to give you the code word.
Right. Yeah, that's great. That's good advice. Yeah, I mean, this is all really good, good advice. I think, Sean, we've definitely moved into a different stratosphere,
Sure.
as far as what people can do, with cyber attacks. And it's like, it's a whole new world out there now. It's just crazy.
And Mike, so what else, what else could people be on the lookout for? Just a common everyday person that, because when you talk about this stuff is available to the average person, I mean, and still they would still have to have a certain skill set to be able to pull these off, these deep fakes, correct? I mean, it's still, I
Yes.
would take I would believe a training or some type of special skill set to pull off a good deep fake. But what else should people be looking for? Because this stuff is really frightening. And I'm sure they target probably younger generation and probably older generation are probably a lot of the victims, right?
Yes. Well, there used to be a show I watched on TV called Suits. Are you familiar with
I'm
it?
familiar with it, but I haven't watched it.
All
You
right.
talk about it.
What it's about is a big time New York law firm. One of their top lawyers, Harvey Specter, he was known as their top closer, had a line that he always used. I don't play the odds, I play the man. Think about it. A lot of those concepts apply to cybersecurity, where it's easier to trick an individual to give you access to their systems than bypassing a firewall, for example.
Right.
Some of the ways that they do it, phishing is a popular one. We touched on that. Another way that criminals will do that, one of the riskiest things an individual could do when they're traveling or anywhere would be using free, open, public Wi-Fi internet.
Right.
Reason is if it's open, it's unencrypted, which means it's easy to intercept the traffic and read it. Another thing that a hacker will do, and it's not that hard, create a Wi-Fi imitating the legitimate one, or after the business name, if they don't have it, make it open, person connects to it, the hacker is able to see everything they do on their device, the websites they go to, passwords they type in. So unless absolutely necessary, don't use open Wi-Fi. Use your own data plan if you have it, or purchase something like one of the MiFi cards for Verizon if they offer it. Another thing that they may try and bait you on would be a USB drop attack.
Explain that, Mike.
Instead of sending an email to you with a link with malicious software, take a regular USB drive, drop it, leave it somewhere, and hope someone picks it up. Now, the average person sees a USB stick on the ground, they're going to think, boy, I wonder who it belongs to. I wonder what's on it. So what do? They're going to plug it in. That would be another way they could deliver malicious software to your machine, to your device, to maybe track what you do, or do a ransomware attack on you. As another example, QR codes, they're built for convenience, but hackers have found a way to take advantage of that.
Right.
And this has been reported in numerous cities where you go to park, pay for parking. There may be a sign on the parking meter to scan here to make the payment, but what you're really doing is going to a malicious site, putting your credit card information, paying the criminal, and now they have your credit card information.
Wow.
Wow.
So,
Unbelievable.
And another thing, Mike, you know, a lot of, from listening to our show from the beginning, that a lot of the things we do is organized crime. So a lot of the things that I read is that the Russian Brafa, the Russian mafia, and Chinese triads have been getting into a lot more white collar crime in the last 10, 15 years, and that they've been involved in heavy cybersecurity crimes. Do you have any information on that as far as organized criminal activity? Controlling
the majority of hackers are going to be, say, your nation states, state-sponsored, organized crime, as you mentioned, hacktivists, those who hack for an ideology or a cause, and the typical kid in the parents' basement, we call them script kiddies. They may know something, but they're going to use what they have learned online to try and hack. And some of those are some of the most dangerous. How you mentioned the organized crime, nation states or state sponsored. They are some of the most dangerous criminals out there. Example, how they're working right now. The election is coming up. Depending who wins, it may be more advantage for different countries in their best interest. So there have been reports of using misinformation, disinformation on websites, social media, as well as phishing emails. Now, with the phishing emails, they're even going on to add links where you could click on and donate to for a candidate, but you're not donating to the candidate, you're donating to the organization. The website may look like it's the legitimate candidate, but it's not. Again, it may have like the dash in the name or slight misspellings or the names and additional verbiage in it. So any listeners, if they do want to donate to any political campaigns, go directly to the candidate's website.
Yeah.
And Mike, law enforcement in the last 10, 15 years have really been onto cyber crimes. I mean, the FBI's added a cyber unit, white collar unit, local law enforcement in big cities like New York, Boston, Philly, LA. They all have intelligence units that handle cyber crimes and white collar crimes. How effective has law enforcement been in stopping a lot of these and really getting to the source, or is it almost impossible to get to the source of a lot of these criminal activities because they're so well hidden?
That is a great question. We have seen some recent news stories of hackers being identified. Challenges, the majority of them are in foreign countries, so they may not have the same extradition laws. They're benefiting the foreign nation states. So it is very hard. And there was a report or a statistic by the World Economic Forum, I think in 2022 or 2023, that the chance of someone being identified and prosecuted is 0.05%, which is very small, unfortunately. Yeah. So any arrest is actually a great accomplishment by law enforcement. And if you talk to a lot of people who's been through incident response where they were a victim of cybercrime, say a ransomware, yes, they do recommend you call the FBI, and their main focus is going to be investigative. Identify as much information as possible. So it is very challenging.
Very
Yeah.
challenging. Yeah.
And I think if something seems weird with it, you go with your instinct and just
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
Bill, that is the best advice you could give.
Yeah.
Trust your gut.
Right. Exactly. Hey, Mike, this has been great.
This has been outstanding, Mike. Thank you, buddy.
Really, really important for people to know. I think it's really, really helpful. And you're doing good work, man. So keep it up.
Appreciate the good
Yeah.
words, Bill. Thank you. Thank you, Sean.
You're
Yeah.
welcome, buddy. Thank you. This has been great. Important information. Everybody needs to hear this, and
Yep.
hopefully we can get you back, Mike, and talk a little more, because there's a lot more we wanted to cover. You know.
Definitely. I would look forward to it.
All right.
All right. Sounds good.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you,
Bye.
Mike. Good night, everybody.